A rare and likely massive emergence of billions, literally billions of cicadas are expected to emerge this spring and summer in Illinois. Full disclosure, I do not like cicadas. I don't like the way they sound when I step on them. I don't like the way they just appear on my shoulder in the summer. So, to make myself feel better about what's coming, I'm excited to talk to an expert. So here we are at the Peggy Notabart Museum in Chicago to learn all about cicadas. So let's see what they have to say.
There's really no escaping them this year in Illinois because we have both broods emerging. Chicago proper, I think it's going to look a lot like everywhere else in the suburbs, to be honest. It'll be sort of area by area, and they will definitely be in the city. So we are going to see an emergence of periodical cicadas from brood 13. They've been under the ground for 17 years, and they have a synchronized emergence where they all come out at the same time. So that's why it's happening now. And then this is going to occur all across the northern half of Illinois. And then in the southern half of Illinois, there's actually another brood of periodical cicadas that come out every 13 years, and they've synchronized this time, and they're going to come out at the same year. We are at the center of this cicada explosion this year. So there are different broods of periodical cicadas throughout the US. Most years there are some emerging somewhere, but it's pretty rare to have two broods, one of 17-year cicadas, one of 13-year cicadas emerging at the same time in an area where they overlap a little bit. What characterizes a brood is what year they come out. So they're synchronized to all emerge at the same time. So this Chicago brood might be a pretty loud one. What determines how loud they are is how many there are singing. So think of it like a chorus. The more voices you have, the louder the sound. And this brood that emerges in Chicago is known to be a pretty dense brood. They're singing, so that singing is a form of communication. It's a mating call. So they're attracting mates. They're calling in the female cicadas so that they can mate. So the periodical cicadas of brood 13 live for 17 years underground, and then when they emerge out of the ground in mid-May, they will become an adult, and that adult only lasts for about 4 to 6 weeks. That's kind of a big mystery, is how are they so synchronized to do this at the same time? There seems to be something that's genetically or physiologically controlled. So they just know instinctually to do this. So what eats them? Everything eats them. That's the periodical cicada's life strategy is by emerging all at once. Everything that eats them can eat as many as they want, really get filled up, and there's still more than enough cicadas left behind to continue the population. A cicada is a pretty tasty snack to wildlife. As far as insects go, they're very large and meaty. They have a lot of nutrients there. That's a big meal just from catching one insect. So you're going to see squirrels, birds, dogs, even snakes will eat cicadas. Yes, they are non-toxic, so they are safe for dogs to eat. However, you may need to be careful and make sure your dog doesn't eat too many too quickly and they get an upset stomach. Yeah, so what it's going to look like is piles of cicada shells lining the ground, or lining the base of trees around the ground. You're going to see holes all over the ground where the cicadas have emerged from underneath, from underground to climb up to the trees. And you're just going to see them sort of flying around, hanging out on trees, and you're going to hear them everywhere you go. It will be patchy in distribution. Not every neighborhood is going to be as dense with them as others. So one area may be slightly more quiet, you will hear them in the distance, and then you go to the next neighborhood and it's hopping, they're everywhere. The best thing you can do is just wait it out. The cicadas are going to be everywhere. They can just fly in from other areas or fly away, so you should definitely not try to remove them from an area. With billions, it's not worth the effort. You can just let them compost back into the soil. That's kind of the great role they play within our ecosystems, is they spend a lot of time concentrating nutrients from a really nutrient-poor food resource that is the xylem in plants. And then when they emerge en masse, they return those nutrients to the soil in one big group. And so that you should be able to see a big boost in plant growth the next couple of years. All the animals that are around when they emerge are going to be very full and happy. Plants are going to get a boost in fertilizer for a little bit. Most years, it probably won't make the biggest difference, other than, animal populations might be a little bigger the following year. However, when we have extreme weather events like a drought, that cicada emergence happens at the right time. That can provide a really valuable food source when nutrients are very scarce. So what you're gonna notice to trees are the female cicadas lay eggs in the tips of tree branches, and that will kill just the very tip of the tree. And so the leaves at the tip of the twig may turn brown and hang down. That's called flagging. And then eventually those eggs that are laid in the twig will hatch and the cicada drops down into the soil. Now that flagging won't cause any serious health damage to the tree. So mid-May, they're gonna start crawling out of the ground. They hang onto a tree, the nymph, the back splits open, the adult cicada emerges. They do their thing for a few weeks where they call, they attract their mates. The female cicadas will lay their eggs in those tips of tree branches. That's really the only damage they'll cause is a little scar in the tip of the tree branch. The edge of the tree branch, those leaves may turn brown and die. And then when those eggs hatch, the cicada falls to the ground. Then the nymph burrows underground, and then they feed from the roots for 17 years for the periodical cicadas. So they're never really burrowing into the tree. They're not causing significant damage. Yeah, it's really going to vary. So there may be spots with no cicadas. There will be spots with some, and there are going to be a lot of spots with a lot.
And there we have it. They're going to be everywhere. That's what you can expect in Illinois this summer.